The book of 1 Kings can be divided into three main sections: Solomon and glory and dishonor, the effect of folly and sin, and Israel and the prophets. Some of the themes of 1 Kings include apostasy and reform. It's similar to the book of Judges in some ways, in that people turn away from God, turn back again, and turn away again. Another theme is the Davidic kingship. David is looked back on as the model king, and David's descendants continue to reign in Jerusalem. Another theme is the prophetic word. 1 Kings is full of prophets. The prophets interact with the kings to let them know when they get it right and when they get it wrong. Also, a number of women appear in the book. There are villains, such as Solomon's wives and Jezebel, as well as heroines, such as the Queen of Sheba, and several women who interact with prophetic figures. In chapters 1 and 2, David's son Adonijah sets himself up as king, and David's general Joab allies himself with Adonijah. But the prophet Nathan and David's wife Bathsheba come up with a plot to make sure Bathsheba's son Solomon becomes the next king. Here, David is described as very old, apparently too old to get it on with his concubine Abishag, who keeps him warm in his bed. Nathan and Bathsheba go to David and remind him that he promised to make Solomon his successor, not Adonijah, and David declares Solomon to be king, and gives Solomon a charge, saying, "Be strong, act like a man, obey the law of Moses." After David dies and Solomon becomes king, Adonijah goes to Bathsheba and asks for Abishag in order to make a claim to the throne by sleeping with David's last concubine. Bathsheba tells her son Solomon about this, and Solomon assumes Adonijah is once again trying to claim rights to the throne, so he kills him. Joab seeks refuge at the Lord's altar, but Solomon kills him too. Solomon places Shimei, Saul's cousin who had cursed David, under house arrest, and eventually Shimei leaves his house, and Solomon accuses him of treason and kills him. Before David died, he told Solomon to keep an eye on this guy because he was trouble. David had spared him, but he told Solomon that when he was king, he could make his own decision about this troublemaker, so Solomon killed him. So essentially, when Solomon becomes king, he starts off by wiping out all the competition. In chapter 3, we see that Solomon made an alliance with Pharaoh and married his daughter. Solomon is portrayed as a faithful king who did not remain faithful. Now God appeared to Solomon in a dream at night and said, "Ask for whatever you want me to give to you." And Solomon's response was, "I am only a little child and don't know how to carry out my duties. So give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong." God was pleased with Solomon's answer and made Solomon wiser than anyone who came before him or anyone who came after him. God additionally gave Solomon what he had not asked for: wealth, long life, honor, and death to his enemies. We then read about a case that was brought before Solomon by two prostitutes. They were roommates and they each gave birth to a son a few days apart, but one of the babies died in the middle of the night and each woman claimed the living baby was hers. And so Solomon decided to cut the baby in half. One woman thought it was a fair idea, but the other woman begged Solomon not to do this and told him to give the baby to the other woman. And so Solomon gave the baby to the woman who would rather have no son than half a son. We then read about Solomon building the temple. Solomon made the people of Israel work for him. He had 30,000 men working in shifts in Lebanon gathering lumber. Solomon had 70,000 carriers and 80,000 stonecutters in the hills, and he had 3,300 foremen. Now the temple was designed from the plans for the tabernacle, but larger and made with much more extravagant materials. The inside of the temple was made from cedar and was overlaid completely with gold. After 7 years of construction, the temple was completed. Solomon then spends 13 years building a palace for himself. He made his palace of cedar wood, and he made a second palace like it for his Egyptian wife. We then read about the dedication of the temple. Solomon had the Ark of the Covenant brought into the temple and placed in the most holy place. The text says that the 2 tablets of Moses with the 10 commandments were still in the ark, and the people sacrificed so many animals that they lost count. After the priest withdrew from the holy place, the glory of the Lord filled the temple, and no one could enter because it was filled with smoke. Solomon stood in front of the altar, stretched out his arms, and offered a prayer of dedication. "Lord, the God of Israel, there is no God like you in heaven above or on earth below. You who keep your covenant of love with your servants, who continue wholeheartedly in your ways. Keep for your servant David, my father, the promises you made to him. But will God really dwell on earth? The heavens, even the highest heaven, cannot contain you. How much less this temple I have built? When your people Israel have been defeated by an enemy because they have sinned against you, and when they turn back to you and give praise to your name, praying and making supplication to you in this temple, then hear from heaven and forgive the sin of your people Israel, and bring them back to the land you gave to their ancestors." And the people celebrated for 14 days.